Hi everybody, it's Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy, and thank you for joining me today for Friday Fun at 1. If you are new to my channel, I am happy you found me and welcome. And if you've been following me and you're back with me today, thank you so much for helping me grow my channel and for your support. I am excited today to just do some simple stamping. If you saw the announcement for the video, you notice there was no card posted, and that's because I don't have anything planned. I picked out a stamp set that I haven't yet used. It's the Oceanfront stamp set. And as we're getting close to the end of summer, I thought I really need to use this because we're moving into fall and into the holiday months. So I chose to use the Oceanfront stamp set, and we're just going to go off the cuff with making some pretty cards, but simple stamping. And that's really all you need to do to get started, especially if you're new to stamping. Stamps, ink, and paper. It's called a SIP card. So with that said, I am going to switch you over to my desktop and we're going to get started, and hopefully you'll stay with me through the end and see what we create. Okay, I had mentioned we are going to use the Oceanfront stamp set. And that stamp set is found on page 88 of the annual catalog. Now you'll notice that this stamp set does not have any sentiments on it. So I decided to pair it up with Inspired Thoughts, which you can find on page 77 in the annual catalog. And I'm going to be using the greetings, hello, and thank you so much. Now there's one other thing I'm using for this card, and I'm going to use the Banners Pick-a-Punch. I love this punch. It's one of my favorites. And it cuts out some really cute banners. So we're going to use that, and that's on page 152. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, and I am going to bring in our supplies. And again, this is, like I said, it's kind of off the cuff. So we are going to create as we go along. I always plan ahead of time really hard what I'm going to do for you, mostly because I don't want to make any mistakes and I want it to be well done. But today, that's not how you always craft. And a lot of times, many of the things that you see that I do, I kind of just pick up and start doing and refine them. But today, I'm not going to do that. So we're going to start with a half a piece of Pacific Point. This is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. Now don't worry about the measurements because not long after the video, there'll be a link right down below the video that you can go on over to my website. It'll show you supplies, measurements, and written instructions for these cards. Now, I even chose a color I rarely use, Pacific Point. It's beautiful, but I don't use it very often. So I forced myself to use some colors I haven't done. So I'm going to reach over and pull in the colors we may be using. I have pulled in Sahara Sand, Crumb Cake, So Saffron, Pale Papaya, Calypso Coral, Old Olive, Pacific Point, and Balmy Blue. And we're going to pull from these colors to create our card. So for our first card, I am going to pull in Sahara Sand, So Saffron. Let's try some Pale Papaya, Pacific Point, and Old Olive. Lots of colors, but you'll see how I'm going to use them. So let's open these up and we'll get started. Now, if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button, and then right next to it is a little bell, and you'll get notified of when I am going live or when videos are posted. Also, if at the end you like the video, I would love it if you'd give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel. And we're almost ready to start stamping. Lots of ink pads out here. So as you can see, I'm pretty inked up already, so I'm sure it'll be more by the time we're done. So I did fold with my bone folder, and we're going to set that off to the side. This is a piece of basic white, and it is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And this is what we're going to stamp on. These stamps are distinctive stamps, and I know you can't see it right now, but I've mounted them all as to how I'm going to use them, and we're just going to start from there. Now, I know ahead of time that I've re-inked a lot of my pads, and they're pretty juicy. I like my images to be crisp. I don't like a lot of dotted marks on them. So I keep a spoon on my desk, several of them, and I use them to wipe the ink away, especially in the middle or on the ends, because the middle we end up using a lot. And then I just clean it with a microfiber cloth. So this is my skyline. I'm going to ink this up. And I want to add a little color to my skyline. So I'm going to bring in a dauber with pale papaya. And I'm just going to add a little bit to the skyline just to give it some interest and some depth. Okay. So let's push that back, and I am going to bring in my piercing mat, because these are photopolymer stamp sets, and you're going to get a crisper, cleaner image if you use that to give you some cushion. So I'm going to go right down here, give it a good push, and there's my skyline. And you can see it did pick up the pale papaya to give it a little bit more color. Let's set that off to the side. And now I'm going to come in with my Pacific Point. And we're going to do the water. Now I know for a fact my Pacific Point is quite juicy. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this spoon. And I simply use my Stampin' Mist. I keep a microfiber cloth on my desk all the time, and I use it to my advantage when I have things like this going on. So we clean that off, and I'm going to ink this up. Okay, and I am going to stamp off lightly, and let's see what we get. Yeah, I kind of like that, so let's restamp it. And then I'm going to come in and just kind of match this up as close as I can. And I'm trying not to get my head in the way of the camera when I do that. And let's good press. And there's our water. And it's pretty dark, but I kind of wanted it that way this time. I'm going to close up my Pacific Point and also my pale papaya. And now we're going to stamp our the ground, and I'm going to use Sahara sand for that. And let's see, I'm going to bring in this stamp. Flipped around, it goes as a hill so that I can match that in. So let's bring this in, and I am going to come right in here, and I've laid down my ground. So a little bit over the top, but we'll figure out how to fix that. So I am going to come in also and add just a small little hill. And I'm actually going to use this one. good. And it came, you can see it comes out a little bit darker. So let's close that up. Now I want to add some grasses, and this stamp set offers 3 different types of grasses. One with the cat o' nine tails, and then some short grasses, and there's even a stamp here that I have not pulled out, which maybe we will and will use. Some really tall grasses. We'll see. So I'm going to do the cat o' nine tails, and I'm going to ink that up with my old olive. And I'm just going to come in here, and then I'm going to re-stamp it in the background so that it's lighter. And then let's come in with our small one, our small grasses, and add a few here. And I'm going to re-ink that lighter. Perfect. Okay. Now, I'm pretty satisfied with that. And you could, if you have Stampin' Write markers, go over the cat o' nine tails in, say, crumb cake or even soft suede. But I'm going to leave those like that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mount this. I have a piece of 4 1/4 by, or 4 by 5 1/4 of pale papaya. So let's go ahead and mount this on here. I hope you have some fun plans for the weekend, and that you're able to enjoy the last days of August. I cannot believe how fast this month has flown by. So, if you're out there watching me live, leave me a comment. Let me know where you're from. And if this is your first time joining me, we're going to go ahead and mount this onto our Pacific Point. I think these 2 colors go so well together. And I like them so much. I have to start using Pacific Point more than I do. So here's our base. And now I want to do our sentiment. So I had them cut here. Here they are. I have a piece of the pale papaya. Oh, this isn't pale papaya. I'm sorry. It's So Saffron. What am I talking about? So I have a piece of So Saffron, and this is 3 3/4 by 3/4. And this is a 1/2 inch of basic white by 3 3/4. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp the sentiment hello on here. So let's bring that in. And I'm going to use my Tuxedo Black Memento ink for this. And we're just going to stamp right across the middle here. Oh, not so good. So that's why we have 2 sides to every paper. And I'm just going to flip it over and re-ink. Oops. And let's restamp this. I don't like that either. So let's get another scrap piece here and try this one more time. And I know part of it is because I am leaning way in, so I'm going to bring it in a little closer. There we go. That's better. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this right in the middle of our So Saffron, and then we're going to use our punch to punch out the ends for a banner. So just going to center this. And I'm not going to worry that this is overlapping a little bit, because this is actually going to get cut out with our punch. So with the punch, you want to open it up, and I'm going to slide this in the 3/4 inch channel here. And punch down, and then do the same thing with this end. Going to slide it in the 3/4 inch channel. And here's our banner. So I'm just going to pop this up with some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I think I'm going to put another one in the middle, just to, if it goes through the mail, it doesn't collapse or push down. And we're going to go right in here. Move it over just a little bit so we're in the center. And that looks good. So now I'd like to add a few gems to it. So I'm pulling in the Fine Sparkle adhesive back gems, and I think these came with our, they were in the new catalog, the mini catalog, and I'm trying to think what they're paired up with. I want to say our elves, and I believe that is what they're with. And let's put one here. Now for the inside of our card, I'm going to grab a piece of 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm going to bring our piercing mat back in. And all I'm going to do is stamp the little rocks and add some grasses to it. Now this is a thank you card, so I'm not going to put a greeting on the inside so that I can write a personalized message. So there's our rocks. I'm gonna open up our old olive. And we're going to go ahead and add this to the inside of our card. And our first card is done. So let's do that. And then we're going to go on to a second card. Now our second card, I chose the same colors, but I'm going to reverse them. The card base is going to be in So Saffron, with the matting as Pacific Point. So here's our first card. Quick and easy, but still very pretty. So let's bring in our So Saffron for the second card. And again, it's 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and fold it and burnish it with my bone folder. I'm going to move these off to the side. Then we're going to pick our colors. I'm going to go ahead, and this time our mat is Pacific Point, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to come on in here with the glue, and we're going to adhere this to the card base. My buddy, which is my golden, just came into the area. So I'm hoping he doesn't get up here to say hello, but if he does, it won't be the first time. So we're going to set this off to the side. Now I'm going to bring in another piece of 3 3/4 by 5, and let's see what colors. We're going to keep our old olive. We are going to keep the So Saffron. I'm going to use Balmy Blue for the water this time. We're going to keep our crumb cake for our, I'm going to keep the Sahara sand, not crumb cake. And then I'm going to bring in Calypso coral for our sunset or our skyline. So let's bring those all in. And let's start all over. So I'm going to ink up, and let's see how this is going to look if it's stamping pretty well. So added my So Saffron, and I'm going to bring in my sponge dauber, and we're going to add a little bit of Calypso coral. And I'm going to stamp off on my paper, and I'm going to bring in my piercing mat. And I want to stamp that off so it's not quite so dark. And we're just going to add a little bit along the skyline. Not a lot, but just enough so it looks like the sun is kind of kissing the skyline. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I like that. That's pretty. Now let's go ahead and we're going to add our water. And I want to clean this stamp off a little better than it is. And this time we're going to ink up with Balmy Blue. Okay. Now I want to see how this is going to stamp and make sure that it's not too wet. So I'm just going to press down. And that looks good. So I am going to use it like it is. Lightly tap off. And then I'm going to come in here with my water. Now we could add a little bit of Pacific Point if we wanted to, but I'm going to stay with the lighter color this time. So we're done with that. Let's close that up. We're done with our So Saffron. And we're done with our Calypso coral. So I'm going to bring in my Sahara sand, which is right here. And we're going to go ahead and stamp. Let's ink this up. I'm going to go ahead and turn this around, and let's add our sand to our, okay. Now you can see that that might just been a little too wet because we have some spots, but it's sand. So I'm going to go with it. Now this time I want to do something a little bit different. So I am going to stamp. Let's stamp the old olive. Let's ink up our cattails. I'm going to stamp them here. Then I'm going to come over and stamp off, and they're a little lighter, but I want to add some rocks to this. So I have a piece of scrap paper here, and I am going to bring in some crumb cake to stamp those, and we're going to fussy cut those and then pop them up on our card. So let's just gonna cut this down. And we're just going to fussy cut these in. Now when you fussy cut, and I have to say I'm getting better at it. It is not one of my favorite things to do because I always feel kind of awkward doing it, but it's getting easier the more I do it. So you just move your paper around and you turn the paper, not the scissors so much. And that gives you a little bit of a white edge as you cut around your image. Okay. So I'm going to add these right here. So let's grab some Stampin' Dimensionals here to pop that up. And we're going to put those right here so that they are in front of our cat o' nine tails. And I think I'm going to bring in another one. Let's do one more. I really like those. And make sure I have crumb cake. And I'm going to stamp them. And we're going to fussy cut those. Then I think I'm going to add some short grasses behind these, just to add a little bit more to the background. If you've liked today's video, I would love it if you'd give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel, and then hit that subscribe button. Also, you know, Celebration is coming to an end next Wednesday. So don't forget to take advantage of, if you are thinking of ordering something, do it while you can get some free products through Celebration. It's a great time, and there's some really great dies and embossing folders and papers and stamp sets that you can get for free with every $50 purchase. So if you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're new to Stampin' Up!, hit my link up in the right corner to my website and go on over there and contact me. Send me your name and address, and I'll be happy to put a catalog in the mail for you. And I would love to have the opportunity to earn your business. So here's the front of our card. Oh, gee, I got it on my hands. Well, we're going to be able to cover that up, and I'm going to show you how. So we're going to go ahead and attach that to the front of our card, and our greeting is actually going to cover that up. So let's go ahead, and we're going to get a nice border around it and adhere that. Now for our banner, we're bringing in Pacific Point, and we're going to cut that down a little bit. So let's bring in my trimmer, and we're going to move all of these off to the side here. And I'm going to cut this down to a 1/2 inch, just because I added that extra stones or rocks, and I don't want this to look crowded. So let's cut it down. And that'll be perfect. Okay, and now I'm going to grab a piece of white, a scrap of white. And I keep all my scraps in one of the envelopes that, like, our embossing folders come in. So I am going to grab a scrap piece here, and I am going to cut it to 3/8 of an inch, since the blue banner, or the blue, is a 1/2 an inch. So let's cut that to 3/8, and let's make sure it stays straight here. And that should be okay. It'll give us a really thin border. So with this, I'm going to stamp "Thank you so much," because the last one we stamped "Hello." And I think I said it was a thank you card, and it wasn't. This one is. So I'm going to go ahead and place this. Now, it's much harder to place your written, your greeting stamps and get them straight than it is the photopolymer, because you can see through and line up your photopolymer stamps with the grid lines. So I always double check this before stamping to make sure it's straight. And that actually looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and see if I can stamp this one without ink on it, because my hands are covered. And we're going to take that. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my little piece of blue, and we're going to put it on here, glue it on, and then I'll trim it off, and we'll put it through our banner punch. Okay. And let's snip this off. And now, if you don't have the punch, you can certainly put this on just like that, and it's going to look just as nice. I'm going to go ahead, though, and punch it through. And I'm going to just slide it in the 1/2 inch groove and punch down. And then let's pop this up with our dimensionals. I will be back on Monday evening, where we're going to use one of our fall stamp sets. And then on Wednesday, I am coming in with a new video I'll do once a month at 4 o'clock this coming Wednesday, the 31st of August, where I'm going to show you alternate projects that you can do with paper pumpkin. So I hope you'll join me both Monday evening at 7 and Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Now for our inside, I have a 4 by 5 1/4. I'm just going to take this double stones or rocks, and I'm going to come back in with our grasses. Now I thought of cutting that out and popping it up, but I think that'd be a little too much bulk, since this is already popped up here. So there's that. And what I'm going to do is I am going to grab my Sahara sand, or grab a light crumb cake. Let's do that. And I'm just going to blend this in a little bit so they don't look like they're just kind of sitting in the middle of nowhere. Okay, and let's add this to our card. And look what I did. I glued that on upside down. So I'm going to show you what I do when I do that, something like that, because I was talking and not paying attention. I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut it. Figures I would do something like this today, but I'm going to come in and I'm just going to cut it right along the score line. Let's see if it'll cut that. Okay, so there's our top, and I am going to grab another piece of So Saffron. And we're going to cut another piece and mount that right on the So Saffron. I don't do that often, but I have to admit I have done it. And rather than get all frustrated and upset about it, I simply cut the top off and glue it on to another card base. So that's what we're going to do here. So those of you that think the demonstrators never make mistakes, we do. And that's why I do lives. I don't edit them out because we all make mistakes and we all have to know how to fix them. So this is what we're going to do. So we're going to add this to another card base. This time I'm going to look while I'm talking to make sure it goes on right side up. And now we're going to add this to the inside. And then we're going to take a look at our two cards. If you're watching, and even if you're watching the replay, leave me a comment. Let me know which one you like best or what you think of the stamp set. Let's get all this out of the way. And we're going to bring in our card. So here's our two cards. The first one that we did with hello, and then the second one where we did thank you so much. So quick, easy cards, simple stamping. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a wonderful, safe weekend, and I hope to see you back here on Monday evening at 7 o'clock. Have a great day.